Ladies and gentlemen, let me ask you one simple question. What would change in your life if the person you listen to the most, yourself, started believing in you? We all have that voice inside. Sometimes it's a motivator, other times it's a monster. But here's the truth, the world doesn't have to believe in you first. You do. For the next 3 days, I want you to try something that may feel strange, uncomfortable, but powerful. Talk to yourself like you would to someone you deeply believe in. When you wake up tomorrow, don't say, "I'm tired," or "I'm not ready." Say this: "Today I rise. I am building something. My time is coming. I will not waste this day." When failure knocks, and it will, don't say, "I'm not good enough." Say this: "I learn faster than anyone. Every mistake is my training. I'm not behind, I'm becoming." When the goal feels too far, don't whisper, "Maybe I'm dreaming too big." No. Shout this: "Every legend starts as a beginner. I am closer than I've ever been." For 3 days, talk to yourself like this. Not once, not twice. Every hour if you have to. Rewire that inner dialogue. Because the words you speak in private become the results you live in public. This isn't about arrogance. It's about alignment. You're aligning your thoughts with your actions and your actions with your destiny. Let the world say what it wants. But for the next 3 days, make a decision: you will not insult your potential. You will not doubt your direction. And you will not stop the voice in your head. It's the most powerful influence in your life. Make it your ally. So try it. Talk to yourself like a warrior, like a champion, like a visionary. 3 days. That's all I ask. And when you do, you won't just talk differently, you'll walk differently, work differently, live differently. Self-belief isn't a lightning strike. It's not some sudden burst of confidence that arrives uninvited and transforms your life overnight. It's not something you hear once in a motivational speech and carry with you for the rest of your life untouched. No, self-belief is a discipline, a ritual, a daily act of mental conditioning that must be nurtured, fed, and protected. Too many people think confidence is a natural trait, a genetic gift handed to the chosen few. But in reality, it's a skill. And like every skill, it sharpens with use and dulls with neglect. The problem is, most people only try to believe in themselves when everything is already going right. When they're winning, when others are clapping, when success is visible. But real self-belief is built in the dark. It's developed in silence. It's forged in those moments when no one else sees your effort, applauds your consistency, or reassures you that you're on the right track. Think about it: you brush your teeth every day, not just once and expect lifelong freshness. You don't eat once and expect to be nourished forever. Why would you tell yourself you're capable once and expect that to carry you through months or years of challenges? Your mind is no different. It needs reinforcement, it needs repetition, and it needs reminders. You don't wait for belief to show up. You manufacture it. You plant it every morning with the way you speak to yourself. The first thoughts you allow when you wake up are not trivial. They are construction tools. They lay the bricks of your inner world. If you begin your day thinking you're not ready, not good enough, not moving fast enough, you're building walls. Mental ones, invisible ones, but very real, and they'll box you in. Instead, belief has to be practiced like a ritual. You wake up and speak possibility. You remind yourself what you've survived, what you're capable of, and why you're still in the fight. Not because life has promised you easy wins, but because you've promised yourself that no matter what, you will not quit on your own potential. The danger of treating belief like a one-time event is this: the first time something goes wrong, the illusion shatters. You stumble once, and suddenly your mind starts whispering, "See, maybe you're not the one. Maybe this dream was too big." And if your belief isn't built into your daily identity, those whispers become your truth. But if you've made it your ritual to speak power into yourself every day, setbacks don't shake you. They train you. There's a reason the most successful people in the world practice affirmations, visualization, and reflection. It's not because they're pretending to be something they're not. It's because they're determined to stay connected to who they are becoming. And that connection requires daily maintenance. Just like your body, your belief system will deteriorate if ignored. You must stretch it, feed it, strengthen it with action, and fuel it with intention. People wait for proof before they believe. But that's backward. Belief isn't the reward, it's the foundation. You move first, you speak first, you act first, and belief begins to match that rhythm. You don't ask the world to validate you. You validate yourself first every single day. Self-belief isn't loud. It doesn't always roar. Sometimes it's a whisper that says, keep going. Sometimes it's a quiet refusal to give in. And sometimes it's simply the decision to show up again even when your mind says hide. That's where the ritual matters most. On the days you feel off, on the days when progress is invisible, and on the days where nothing makes sense. Because those are the days when a practiced belief system will carry you through. Your words are not just sounds, they are signals. Every time you speak, whether out loud or silently in your mind, you are reinforcing a direction. You are either building momentum or breaking it. You are either speaking limitation or speaking possibility. And the difference between the two isn't just emotional, it's transformational. The majority of people unknowingly talk themselves out of their own future, not because they don't want success, but because they've programmed themselves to describe what's wrong instead of what's possible. You hear it in their casual language, I don't think I can do this. I'm not ready. I've never been good at that. That's just the way I am. They mistake observation for truth. They treat limitation like fact, when often it's just habit. Possibility is not fantasy. It's not some blind optimism that ignores the struggle. Speaking possibility simply means refusing to narrate your life through fear. It means your language reflects where you're going, not just where you've been. When you constantly speak in terms of what can't be done, you shrink the space for action. But when you speak what could be, you give yourself permission to grow, to try, to stretch beyond the current version of yourself. Language is the architecture of belief. The way you describe your challenges, your goals, and even your identity creates boundaries or breaks them. If you say, I'm terrible at public speaking, you've already closed the door. If you say, I'm getting better every time I speak, you've cracked it open. One sounds final. The other opens the mind to improvement. Think about it, every innovation, every great achievement, every breakthrough started with someone daring to speak about what could happen. Not what was guaranteed, not what was obvious, but what was possible. Speaking possibility doesn't require proof. It requires vision. It's a discipline of language. It's the habit of refusing to let current limitations dictate future outcomes. This isn't about lying to yourself. It's about choosing a vocabulary that empowers action. There's a difference between saying, I've never done this before, and saying, I'm learning to do this now. One keeps you frozen. The other gives you motion. The words you speak frame your mindset, and your mindset drives your choices. The wrong words will convince you to hesitate. The right ones will train you to move. Possibility-oriented speech is especially critical when you face setbacks. Anyone can speak positively when things are going well, but the people who rise are those who continue to say, I will find a way, even in moments of doubt, delay, or difficulty. When you speak limitation, you start building arguments for why you're stuck. When you speak possibility, you start creating strategies for how to advance. You move from defense to offense, from survival to solution. The truth is, you're always speaking into your life. Every sentence is a form of instruction, telling your mind what to expect and how to respond. If you say, this is impossible, your brain stops looking. If you say, there must be another way, your brain starts searching. The words activate a direction. You don't need to have all the answers to speak possibility. You don't need to be fearless. You just need to develop the awareness to catch yourself when your language becomes an anchor instead of a sail. You need to interrupt the pattern that keeps you describing your walls instead of designing your doorways. Start listening to how you speak about your goals, your worth, your future. Is your language aligned with the version of you that's moving forward, growing, building something? Or is it stuck defending limitations passed down by fear, failure, or other people's doubts? Your words are the first layer of your reality. Speak like the person who refuses to be caged by circumstance. Speak as if progress is possible, because it always begins there. Speak what you want to build, not what you fear might break. Speak with clarity, with courage, with direction. Speak like someone who knows that every sentence is either a blueprint for growth or a trap made of hesitation. Speak upward, not downward. Speak like the next step is already opening because you dared to name it. Speak like every word counts, because it does. Your words are not random expressions. They are seeds. And like any seed, they carry the power to grow into something far greater than their size would suggest. Every thought you speak, every sentence you repeat, every phrase you echo, whether to yourself or others, is planting something. The question is, what are you growing? Too many people plant guilt, regret, and self-judgment into their minds without even realizing it. They say things like, I always mess things up. I should have done better. I'll never get it right. And they believe they're just being honest. But they're not just expressing, they're embedding, they're sowing the very roots of stagnation. Guilt becomes the soil. Shame becomes the sun. And regret becomes the rain. Before long, a toxic tree grows, one that provides no shelter, no fruit, only shade that darkens everything it touches. Guilt has a way of disguising itself as responsibility. It tells you that constantly criticizing yourself means you're being accountable. But accountability leads to growth. Guilt leads to paralysis. There is a massive difference between saying, I made a mistake and I'm learning, and I'm such a failure for messing that up. The first plants awareness and progress. The second plants pain and permanence. The first moves you forward. The second keeps you stuck, watering the same moment over and over again. Every word you speak over your life either sharpens your identity or distorts it. When you speak growth, you open up possibilities. You remind yourself that today is still fertile ground, that progress is still on the table, that you haven't disqualified yourself because of what happened yesterday. But when you speak guilt, you shrink. You declare that your past has already defined you, that what you did is all you'll ever be. And that belief becomes your ceiling. You don't rise from mistakes by punishing yourself. You rise by learning, applying, and speaking what you've learned into every step forward. You say things like, I'm improving every day. I have the ability to grow from this. This doesn't end me. It shapes me. These aren't just pretty affirmations. They're new seeds built on reflection, not regret. They redirect your focus. They shift your emotional energy from shame to strength. They remind your nervous system that you're not in danger. You're in development. What you repeat becomes what you believe. And what you believe drives what you do. If you want different outcomes, you need different inner dialogue. That means filtering yourself, talk for guilt-based language. Catch yourself in the moments when your words are digging holes instead of planting seeds. Listen to the tone you use with yourself. Would you speak to a friend the same way? Would you scold someone else for making a mistake and expect them to grow stronger because of it? Then why do you expect that from yourself? Growth doesn't come from perfection. It comes from resilience. And resilience is built on how you talk to yourself when you're at your lowest. You can't hate yourself into becoming better. You can't shame yourself into change. You can only grow when you give yourself permission to be human while still holding yourself accountable to something greater. Your words are the bridge between who you were and who you're becoming. If that bridge is made of guilt, it collapses. If it's built with growth, it carries you. You must become intentional with your vocabulary. Replace, I failed again, with, I'm learning what doesn't work. Replace, I'm not enough, with, I'm still building my strength. Replace, why am I like this? with what can I do differently next time? These small changes plant different seeds, and different seeds grow different results. Language is your first tool for shaping the future. Speak with the same care you would use planting something valuable, because what you speak today will eventually show up in what you live tomorrow. Guilt can only grow more guilt. But growth, when planted consistently, expands into momentum, direction, and purpose. Your words shape your mental climate. They set the rhythm for your recovery. They become the harvest of your next breakthrough. There's a voice inside your head that speaks more than any other voice you'll hear in your entire life. It doesn't sleep. It doesn't take breaks. It is constantly interpreting, commenting, questioning, and judging. And the way this voice speaks, its tone, its intent, its direction, can either build you or break you. That voice is you, and how you speak to yourself in private determines how you show up in public. Most people are trained to criticize themselves more than they encourage. They call it being realistic or holding themselves to a high standard. But in reality, they're practicing a form of self-abuse disguised as discipline. The internal voice becomes a drill sergeant, barking out what's wrong, never acknowledging what's right, constantly focused on flaws, never on progress. The result? Burnout, not breakthrough. Exhaustion, not excellence. Criticism creates pressure, but not always performance. You might move for a while out of fear or guilt, but you don't grow in that environment. You shrink. Encouragement, on the other hand, creates space. It doesn't lower the standard. It lifts the spirit to rise to the challenge. It says, yes, there's more to do, but look how far you've come. It recognizes effort. It acknowledges progress. It fuels continuation. Imagine talking to a child who's learning how to walk. Every time they stumble, would you yell, "What's wrong with you? Why can't you get it right?" Of course not. You would say, "That's it. Try again. You're almost there." And yet, when we stumble in adulthood, whether in business, relationships, or habits, we default to shame, sarcasm, and self-judgment. That kind of talk doesn't make you stronger. It just makes you smaller in your own eyes. Encouragement doesn't mean letting yourself off the hook. It means guiding yourself forward with clarity and belief. It means saying, "That wasn't my best, but I've learned from it," instead of, "I'm such a failure." It means observing your missteps without labeling your identity. It means holding yourself accountable while still protecting your self-worth. The way you correct yourself matters. Correction without compassion creates fear. Correction with encouragement creates growth. You can say, "I need to improve this," and still say it with respect for the person doing the work. You can challenge yourself without condemning yourself. That's the mindset of someone who's in it for the long game. When you criticize yourself, especially repeatedly, you start internalizing those messages as truth. You stop trying new things because you assume you'll mess them up. You avoid growth opportunities because you associate them with the risk of more self-blame. Over time, you become your own barrier. Not because you lack potential, but because you've convinced yourself you're not worthy of pursuing it. But when you encourage yourself, you create a different internal chemistry. You're more resilient, more willing to take risks, more patient with the process. Encouragement becomes your fuel, not your fallback. It turns effort into progress and mistakes into lessons. It keeps you moving when results are slow. It keeps your mind open when the pressure rises. It reminds you that the voice in your head can either be your biggest critic or your most loyal coach. This shift doesn't happen by accident. It requires awareness. You have to catch the moments where you default to criticism and replace them with language that builds. Instead of saying, "I always screw this up," you say, "I'm figuring this out step by step." Instead of saying, "I'm not good enough," you say, "I'm learning how to become stronger in this area." These are not lies, they are frames. And the way you frame your journey changes how you walk it. Encouragement doesn't make you weak. It makes you sustainable. It gives you the strength to return to the work to stay in the fight, to trust your pace, to reinforce belief. And that belief becomes your advantage, because when you believe in yourself, you treat your growth like something worth investing in, not punishing. Before you become anything in the world, you have to become it in your mind, and then in your mouth. Words are not just tools of communication, they're instruments of transformation. What you say about yourself, what you declare over your life, what you repeat when no one is listening, those things begin to mold your identity. And the truth is, most people are becoming the version of themselves they keep describing. You don't need permission to speak power into your own name. You don't need someone to announce who you are. You don't wait to become confident, disciplined, resilient, or successful before you start speaking those traits into existence. You say it first. You claim it first. You believe it first. Even when your circumstances don't show it. Even when your results don't confirm it. Even when your emotions don't feel it. You speak what you are growing into, not what you are stuck in. Say it until you become it. That's not arrogance. That's alignment. You are aligning your language with your intention. You are refusing to let your past write your future. You are giving your vision a voice, one that echoes louder than fear, louder than history, louder than other people's limited definitions of who you are allowed to be. It's easy to speak defeat. It's natural to repeat what's not working. But that only cements what you're trying to break out of. You get more of what you confirm. When you say, "I'm bad with money," you give yourself permission to keep making poor financial decisions. When you say, "I can't focus," you remove your obligation to train your discipline. When you say, "I'm just not that kind of person," you chain yourself to an outdated version of who you used to be. But the moment you start saying, "I'm becoming more focused," "I'm learning to master my habits," "I am someone who finishes what I start," everything changes. Not because those things are instantly true, but because your mind starts working to make them true. It starts looking for alignment between what you say and how you act. Your words become the blueprint. Your behavior begins to follow. Not perfectly, not immediately, but progressively. You can't become what you're afraid to declare. You can't rise into a new level if you keep whispering doubt every time you take a step. Say it. Even when your voice shakes, say it. Even when you've failed before, say it. Even when the evidence hasn't caught up yet. Because the repetition rewires your identity. The more you say it, the more it becomes familiar. The more it becomes familiar, the more it becomes believable. And what you believe, you eventually live. Affirmation without action is empty. But action without affirmation is unstable. You need both. The doing and the declaring. The practice and the proclamation. You say it while you're working on it. You speak it while you're sweating through it. You don't wait until you have the title, the income, or the breakthrough to start talking like someone who belongs in the room. You walk in as if, not to fake it, but to claim it. Most people speak what they fear. Few speak what they're becoming, and even fewer say it consistently enough to see it manifest. But those who do, the ones who make it a daily discipline to shape their words with vision, those are the people who build a future that doesn't look like their past. Not because the road was easy, but because their words kept